The unrepresented buyer. Say that again, the unrepresented buyer. It's something that's been growing a little bit in the real estate space, and we'd like to talk about that a little bit more today. This is Ron Wojciechowski for the Black Hole of Real Estate. And when we say unrepresented buyer, this is someone who does not want to use the services of a real estate agent. Okay? I mean, you're not forced to. And their belief is that they can manage the entire transaction, and maybe they feel like they're saving some money if there's no commission on that side, if they're going to be doing their own work. That's a real thought process for them. Now, what we're seeing on the other side of the table is there's a seller willing to pay a commission, and maybe that buyer feels if they can wipe out part of that commission, they get a better price. And maybe that's the case, maybe not. But what I've also learned is that on the other side, there's a little bit of friction. An agent has to drive to a property to let someone in that they're not representing. Okay, that's not the end of the world, and agents will do it. But along the way, buyers are going to have questions, right? And if there's no representation in place, you can pretty much just answer out the piece of the paper and point to the whatever's written in public knowledge. You know, here is the square footage, here's the list price. They can't answer any questions, especially when it comes to negotiation. Hey, would the seller take this? Would the seller do this? Would they throw in this? They can't answer those questions because it's not a representation piece in there. So again, it can lead to some friction. And let's not mistake this that agents are lazy and agents don't want to open doors for property. That's not the case. But there's a liability that's real that needs to at least come to the forefront. Now, not everybody's going to get sued, and nobody has to lose their license over it to do it this way. But as we continue to introduce this idea, the agent that is not representing them, but maybe the seller, okay, so who goes back for inspections? Who goes back for appraisals? Who makes all these extra trips for walkthroughs and repairs and everything else? Typically, that's work done by the other agent, but there's not one here. The other agent typically writes the offer. Okay, well, they're not there. So the buyer has to write their own offer because we're discussing the terms here. You can't negotiate. So for the agent, you're just going to be walking a very, very fine line to what is facilitating a sale on behalf of your representation for your seller and what is entering into a negotiation with an unrepresented buyer. Now, there's a way to do it. I'm not saying there isn't. But this is why agents, there's a little friction there. And I'm going to keep using that word. They're hesitant to go out there and help because they're in fear of losing their license or making a mistake unknowingly. It's going to cause them to have a violation. Not to mention, if you're being paid by one side, okay, that's fair. But there's a whole other side not getting paid over here. And that's to the buyer's benefit to try to save that money if they even save it. But you are definitely asking somebody for no additional benefit to go out there multiple trips to the property, and an agent can make that business decision, and it's done all the time. But as an unrepresented buyer, you're not necessarily in a position to make a lot of demands. So if an agent is out of town for a week, you can't see the property. Now, if a buyer has an agent, a different buyer, they can get in and see the property. So there's times where you can miss out because there's simply nobody that's going to let you in the property. And before you say, just give me the lockbox code, I don't know anybody that's willing to risk giving a lockbox code to a listing, of a $500,000 property to someone you've never seen before that's not under representation. It's not a reasonable expectation to hand out lockbox codes. I know that I would be insanely hesitant to do it. I can't think of a circumstance that I would want to do that. So there's a lot that would maybe not meet the eye. And it's not to say that an unrepresented buyer is being unreasonable or not making a good decision, but it takes two to tango on that, and there's certain things that can and cannot be done along with this. I think you'll see this coming up a little bit more in the future, not necessarily, and I don't think it's all that different than all the years I've been in real estate. There's always been people that just want to represent themselves. And in the past, the way the commission structures are laid out, the seller just paid for it, and nobody gave too much thought about it. But now with buyer representation agreements coming to the forefront the last couple of years, I think it gets a little more light shined onto it. Listen, none of this is wrong. And this piece is just educate and inform. And now that you've heard about this a little bit more, if you're a seller, you got a little bit better window into what's going on. And if you're an unrepresented buyer, Well, now you can understand some of the reasons why people might be hesitant to just drop everything and run over there and open up the door for you. If you got questions, let me know. This is definitely one that's a little bit on the sensitive side for some people. We're going to do the best we can to give you the information to help you make great decisions in real estate. This is Ron Wojciechowski for the Black Hole of Real Estate.